Most people think distance means you've given up, that you're done, that you finally waved the white flag and walked away defeated. But my friends, that's the lie. That's the illusion weak minds love to believe, because when someone's been feeding off your energy, your kindness, your loyalty, and you suddenly pull back, they assume you've lost. But what they don't realize is this. Distance isn't disconnection. It's power. It's control. It's the decision to stop begging to be seen by someone who was looking right through you. You see, emotional closeness becomes a drug when it's unbalanced. When you're always available, always reaching out, always there when they call, what you're really doing is flooding them with comfort they didn't earn. You're giving them warmth without responsibility. You're showing up while they sit back and calculate your worth like they've got all the time in the world. But when you stop showing up, when you pull your presence, your energy, your attention back into yourself, the pressure builds, not on you, on them. Think of a glass of water sitting quietly on a desk. It looks calm, still, harmless, but put it in a sealed chamber and increase the pressure. It becomes steam, then power, then force. That's what your emotional distance does. It creates inner pressure in them. The space you leave behind becomes the chamber where their truth starts to rise to the surface. And that truth, it's loud, it's painful, and it's real. Most people don't realize what they had while they had it, especially when what they had was peaceful, consistent, and pure. They confused your calm for weakness. They thought your loyalty meant you'd always be available. But when you finally step back, not out of rage, not out of spite, but with calm, quiet clarity, that's when the questions start creeping in. Did she stop caring? Is she seeing someone else? Why does it feel different now that she's gone? That silence doesn't just echo, it exposes. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And folks, that's why your distance is so powerful, because when you pull back, they're no longer distracted by your presence. They can't hide behind your forgiveness anymore. They're forced to sit with themselves. Their silence becomes louder. Their choices become clearer. Their ego starts fighting with their heart, and it never ends well. So no, you're not giving up, you're not ghosting, you're not playing games, you're returning to yourself, you're stepping out of a role that drained you, you're making room for your mind to breathe, for your soul to heal, and for them to finally feel what it means to miss you. Because let's be real, some people won't change until the silence gets uncomfortable, until your name starts tasting like regret in their mouth, until your absence becomes a weight they carry into every connection they try to recreate. And when they come back, and they will, they won't be chasing the you that left. They'll be chasing the version of you they didn't respect when they had access, the one who's now wiser, stronger, unreachable. So stay calm, stay centered. Let your distance do the talking. You don't need to prove anything. The pressure will build, and when it does, truth always floats to the top. Now don't just sit there nodding like this is some background noise, my friend. This isn't a movie you watch. This is a moment you mark. If anything I said made your chest tighten, if you felt that little sting in your gut, that's your soul waking up. That's your higher self saying, "This is what I needed." So don't scroll past it. Don't let this truth dissolve in silence. Put it in writing. Make it real. Type it in the comments right now. Distance is my power. Not just to say it, but to claim it, to stamp it in your story. Because when you say it out loud, when you write it with your own hands, you're not just listening, you're transforming. And if this message grabbed your spirit like a lightning bolt, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button. Send this to someone still stuck in a loop they need to walk away from. And subscribe right now, because we're not just here to heal, we're here to rise. Stay with me. It's time they feel your absence in a way they never felt your presence. Number 1. The pendulum principle. Why emotional pullbacks trigger pursuit. It doesn't make sense at first, does it? You give someone your full heart, your time, your effort. You show up when no one else does, and somehow they become colder, more distant, less responsive. You think, maybe if I try harder, maybe if I'm more available, more loving, more forgiving. But the more you lean in, the more they seem to fade, and it leaves you feeling confused, unwanted, like your love is a burden they've grown tired of carrying. But here's the truth. Most people never learn until it's too late. Emotional energy works like a pendulum, and the more force you use to push towards someone, the more force they'll use to swing away. This isn't just a dating pattern, it's psychology. The human mind instinctively leans back when it feels crowded. Not because you're unworthy, not because you're too much, but because people chase what isn't chasing them. And the more available you make yourself to someone who hasn't earned it, the less their brain values the interaction. You become predictable, easy, and easy never moves the soul. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but how do I just stop caring? How do I stop texting when I want to hear from them? How do I not show up when I still love them? You don't stop loving. You don't fake indifference. That's not Stoicism. That's manipulation. What you do is shift the energy. You stop pushing and you let the pendulum swing. You say, I've done enough. I've shown who I am. Now it's on them. Imagine you're on a swing. The more someone pushes you, the higher you go. But if they stop pushing, you slow down, you start to drift, and you start to feel the lack of force behind you. And that's when it hits them. That's when they notice the shift. Because here's what no one tells you. The chase doesn't start when you try harder. It starts when you stop. When you back off, not with bitterness, not with sarcasm, but with clarity, you shift the dynamic. Suddenly, they don't know what you're thinking. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer emotionally on call. They feel the space, and that space makes them curious. It makes them question what they once dismissed. And that curiosity, it's the beginning of their pursuit. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But the reverse is also true. Everything they ignore in you will eventually reflect the truth about them. You were there, fully, openly, but they didn't chase because you never stopped reaching. Now, the second you pull back, they're left swinging in the space you used to fill, and they have to confront the very thing they avoided, what they actually feel for you. This is where the pendulum principle hits hardest. You're not begging, you're not disappearing, you're simply stepping out of the energy of chase, and when you do that, something wild happens. They feel it, not in their mind, in their body. It's the tension that builds when they open their phone and realize you haven't checked in. It's the confusion that rises when they notice your energy has shifted from "I'll wait forever" to "I'll be fine either way." You become a mystery again, not because you're hiding, but because you're no longer available on demand, and the human mind craves what it can't immediately reach. That's when you start to see signs. They reach out with random texts. They start watching your stories more. They like old photos. They test the waters. Why? Because the pendulum is swinging back. And now they feel the pressure to prove something. But here's the catch. You have to hold the line, because the moment you lean in too fast, the swing resets, and you're right back where you started. This doesn't mean you play hard to get. It means you stay grounded. You hold your value. You let your silence speak, and you let their discomfort teach them what your presence used to solve. Will it be hard? Absolutely. You're breaking a pattern. You're sitting with discomfort instead of escaping it. You're choosing dignity over dopamine, but the reward is so much greater. Clarity, peace, self-respect. And most of all, you become the one who controls the rhythm now. So if you're feeling tempted to reach out, to over-explain, to fix what's broken, remember this. A pendulum only returns to center when the pressure eases, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your soul is stop pushing. Let them feel the swing. Let them sit in the absence. Let them wonder. Say it with me. Type it in the comments like your future depends on it. I've stopped pushing. This is your moment to reclaim the rhythm. Press that like button if you feel that shift inside. Share this with someone who's been chasing what doesn't chase back. And subscribe, because we're just beginning to rewrite the rules. Stay with me. Your silence is about to change the entire game. Number 2. The void effect. Their mind fills in the silence with desire. There's something strange that happens when you finally stop talking, when your phone goes quiet, when your energy pulls back without a warning or a fight. At first, they feel relieved. That's the truth. They think, finally, no more pressure, no more deep conversations, no more emotions I didn't know how to deal with. But that relief, it's short-lived, because silence doesn't just disappear into the air. Silence creates a void, and the human mind hates a void. Psychologists have studied it. Carl Jung lived by it. When something once meaningful goes quiet, the subconscious starts reaching for answers. And here's what makes it powerful, my friends. The brain doesn't just seek truth. It fills in the blanks with desire, with fantasy, with idealized versions of what used to be there. So when you stop explaining, stop texting, stop giving them updates on your life, they don't just notice you're gone. They start reimagining you. They remember the way your voice softened when they were angry, the way your eyes lit up when you laughed at their stupid jokes, the way you forgave them when they didn't even apologize. But now, you're no longer accessible. You're no longer on call emotionally. And suddenly, you go from predictable to mysterious. And mystery, folks, is the seed of obsession. They'll never admit this out loud, not at first, not until the thoughts start spinning. Where did she go? Why hasn't she checked in? Who's making her laugh now? And every one of those questions they used to ignore now feels like a punch in the gut. Because they're not answering to you anymore, they're answering to their own mind. That's the void effect. It's not punishment. It's not manipulation, it's psychology. And here's the twist. You didn't have to say a word. You didn't have to post thirst traps or indirect quotes. You didn't have to beg, cry, or prove your value. You just disappeared with grace, and their brain, their memory, their guilt did the rest. The less you give, the more their mind gives them. Memories, scenarios, what-ifs, and those what-ifs. That's where regret is born. Think about it like this. Imagine a beautiful painting hanging in your room. You pass by it every day. You barely notice it anymore. But then one day, it's gone. Just the blank wall remains. And now you're staring at the space it used to occupy, trying to remember the exact colors, the detail, the emotion it gave you when you first saw it. That's what your absence becomes, an empty frame in the back of their mind, haunting them. Some of you still don't realize how powerful that void is. You think your silence is being ignored. You think they've moved on, but you're wrong. You're just invisible to the eye, not the mind. And the mind is where attachment lives, where nostalgia brews, where lessons hit the hardest. So while they smile in public and act like they're unbothered, just know your absence is sitting at the back of their brain, asking all the questions you never got answers to. Don't break the silence. Don't rush to explain. Let the void do its job. Let their imagination show them the version of you they never appreciated when they had the real thing. That's when the regret sets in. That's when they realize you weren't just another option. You were the moment. You were the light. And now you're the ghost their soul keeps reaching for in the dark. So say it with me. Drop it in the comments like it's your truth. My silence creates desire. Press that like button if you're done filling the silence with explanations, and subscribe if you're ready to let your absence echo louder than your presence ever did. Stay with me. This void is only just beginning to teach them what you always knew. Number 3. Distance reverses the spotlight. Now they are performing. Let's be honest, my friend. You were the show. You were the warmth, the rhythm, the heartbeat of the connection, always checking in, always making sure they felt seen, heard, loved. You were the one doing the emotional heavy lifting, holding space, showing up even when they didn't match your effort. And for a while they got comfortable in that. They got used to you being the one on stage, under the lights, performing your worth, hoping they'd finally applaud. But here's what happens when you go quiet, when you step off the stage, fold the script, and walk out without a final act. The spotlight flips. Suddenly, they're the one standing there, confused, blinking under the bright light. And it's their turn to feel seen, judged, exposed. It's their turn to wonder, what do I say now? How do I act? Why does this feel off? That's the shift that distance brings. Not just physical space, but emotional space. The removal of your energy forces them to perform in a scene they never rehearsed. When you were present, they didn't have to be intentional. They didn't have to initiate or reciprocate. You carried the emotional momentum, and they coasted on it. But now that your energy is gone, now that your attention is off of them, they're scrambling. And here's the psychological trick. The human ego hates being observed when it's not in control. Your absence has put them in the spotlight, not because you're watching them, but because now they're watching themselves. Carl Jung once said, "Man is not only made by history, he makes history." And now they are watching the history they made with you, the way they handled you, the things they said or didn't say, the love they took without returning, and the image they built to justify their emotional neglect. It's starting to crumble because they're alone on the stage now, and that silence they once enjoyed, it's now an audience. You're not clapping anymore. You're not chasing. You're not feeding their ego with attention, and so they start to second-guess themselves. Did I push her too far? Was she actually the one holding this together? Why hasn't she reached out? The same person who once thought they had all the power is now asking questions they never thought they'd have to ask. That's what emotional distance does. It doesn't just create space, it creates tension. They feel like someone is watching, even when no one is. That's what guilt does. That's what unspoken regret does. It makes you paranoid. And now every move they make, every post they create, every word they say feels like it's under review. Not because you're watching, but because they're haunted by the version of themselves they showed to someone who deserved better. And the beauty of all this, you didn't have to punish them. You didn't have to call them out. You just stopped participating in their game. And when the mirror is no longer held by you, they're forced to look at their reflection without the filter. That's where the real discomfort begins, because now they're not just missing you, they're measuring themselves against the silence you left behind. So let them feel the heat of that spotlight. Let them sweat a little. Let them perform now, because you've already done your part. And the standing ovation? It was never meant for someone pretending to care. It's meant for you, the one who finally walked away from a stage you were too big for. Say it out loud. Type it in the comments like it's the new script. I've left the stage. Press that like button if you're done performing for someone who never showed up. Subscribe if you're reclaiming your energy, one silent move at a time. Stay with me. This spotlight was never meant to blind you. It was meant to reveal them. Number 4. You're not chasing, you're repositioning. You've been told that stepping back means you're losing, that giving space means you're scared, that going silent means they've won. But let me tell you something that flips the whole game. You're not chasing. They're just too low to see where you've gone. What you're doing isn't retreat. It's not surrender. It's repositioning. And my friend, when you reposition yourself with purpose, you don't just step away, you rise above. You're not disappearing, you're not ghosting, you're elevating. You're leaving the battlefield, not because you've lost the war, but because the fight is beneath you. And they won't understand it at first. They'll assume you've given up, that you're sulking, that you're folding. But what you're really doing is choosing altitude over argument, stillness over noise, power over performance. Because here's the truth, not everyone deserves front row access to your heart. Some people only learned how to value you when you were beneath them, chasing, explaining, over-functioning. But once you stop standing beside them and start standing above them, not in ego but in clarity, they can't ignore the difference in altitude. Now they have to look up just to remember what your presence felt like. And that distance, it forces their perspective to change. The view is different when someone stops texting from the passenger seat and starts walking toward the mountain, because once you rise, you're no longer an option next door. You're a vision on the horizon. You're something they can't reach with a lazy hand anymore. They have to climb now. And climbing takes effort, respect, intention. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," and this, your repositioning, is part of that pain for them. They're now faced with a new truth. You weren't standing beside them out of weakness, but out of love. And now that you're gone, they're realizing just how much that love stabilized them. Your energy kept the connection alive. Your consistency kept the conversation flowing. Your care kept the flame from dying. And now, they're in the dark, alone, wondering how the warmth disappeared so fast. But don't mistake their confusion for cruelty. Confusion is a teacher, and your silence is the classroom. You didn't walk away in anger. You walked upward in purpose, and that purpose doesn't beg to be understood. It just moves. And if they want to find you now, they've got to do what they never did before: level up. Let this be your reminder. Emotional distance doesn't make you weak. It makes you untouchable to the drama you used to tolerate. You no longer orbit their indecision. You no longer entertain their half-effort. You don't play the same game. You left the arena, and in doing so, you've reclaimed your seat in peace, power, and poise. So no, you're not chasing, you're not hoping, you're not watching the door. You're on higher ground now, and the only way they'll ever reach you again is if they learn how to rise. Say it like a declaration. Type it in the comments right now. I've moved to higher ground. Hit that like button if you're done playing small to be seen. Subscribe if you're done waiting for the bare minimum. Stay with me. We're just beginning to understand what your new altitude unlocks. Number 5. Invisible presence. When your absence enters the room first. You don't have to be in the room to be felt. That's the part they didn't understand. They thought your exit meant the end of your impact, that once you stopped calling, stopped showing up, stopped checking in, they'd be free of your presence. But what they didn't realize, my friend, is that your absence carries a signature, an energetic fingerprint that lingers long after you've gone silent. We're not just made of words and presence. We leave imprints, patterns, emotional residue, and when someone's been used to your light, your care, your rhythm, your consistency, then suddenly wakes up without it, the silence doesn't feel empty. It feels haunted. That's what your absence becomes. Not a void, not a goodbye, a presence with no body, a whisper with no source, a shadow that stays even after you've left the room. They'll hear a song and remember how you used to hum it while cooking. They'll catch themselves using one of your phrases in a random conversation. They'll go to send a meme, open their messages, and realize you're not there anymore. It'll hit in the smallest, most unexpected moments. When their world goes quiet, you'll be the sound in their mind. That's how energy works. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And right now, they're being driven by your energy in ways they can't explain. They'll feel something missing but won't know how to name it. It's not just you they miss. It's who they were around you, the way they smiled more, the way they felt more human, the way your presence softened their hard edges. Now that you're gone, they're left trying to recreate that feeling, and failing. You've become the phantom limb, the piece of them they assumed they didn't need, until it was no longer there. They didn't value your presence because they thought it was permanent, but permanence is an illusion. You were consistent, not permanent, and consistency is a choice, a privilege, and they took it for granted. So now your absence walks into the room before they do. It wraps around their shoulders like cold air in an old room, reminding them, someone once loved you here. But here's the twist, they won't admit it. Not yet, maybe not ever, because to admit it would be to admit they felt you more once you were gone than when you were close. That realization, it shatters the ego. So instead they pretend they're fine. They distract themselves. They talk louder, laugh harder. But deep down, they feel it. In the quiet, in their dreams, in the places your voice used to echo. You became the presence they can't replace. Not because of what you did, but because of who you were consistently. And the most powerful part? You never had to scream. You never had to make them regret it. You just stopped showing up. You just pulled your energy inward. And that act alone was louder than anything you could have said. So let them sit in it. Let your absence be the storm that reveals everything your presence was holding back. You were the calm, the balance, the warmth. Now they walk into rooms looking for something familiar and can't find it. Because it was you. Say it with calm pride. Drop it in the comments right now. My absence speaks louder. If this touched your soul, press that like button. Share it with someone who needs to understand their energy is unforgettable. And subscribe. We're not just healing. We're haunting in the best way. Stay with me. You're becoming the echo they can't silence. Number 6. The ego split. Why they'll pretend not to miss you. They miss you. Don't let the blank stares, dry texts, or cold silence fool you. Don't let the social media posts, the forced smiles, or the fake peace distract you. Behind all of that is a mind at war with itself. And the reason they act like they don't miss you, it's not because they don't. It's because they can't admit that they do. Not to you, and not even to themselves. Welcome to the ego split. The ego is a fragile thing, my friend. It survives off of illusion, off of control. And the moment you stepped back, the moment you stopped chasing, their illusion cracked. Because when someone's used to holding power in the dynamic, your silence becomes a threat, a mirror, a quiet rebellion. It forces them to face something they were never ready to see. You were never beneath them. They just weren't ready for your depth. So instead of sitting with that truth, their ego creates a defense, denial, indifference, pride. They pretend not to miss you. They act like they're thriving. They might even start entertaining someone new just to prove a point. But that point is never made to you. It's made to their own wounded identity. Because your absence doesn't just leave space, it destabilizes the role they were playing. The calm, in control, emotionally detached one. And now that you're gone, that character doesn't make sense anymore. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." That's exactly what this is. The ego will create stories, distractions, and even false replacements just to avoid the simple truth. They feel your absence deeply, and they don't know how to handle it. But feeling it and admitting it are two very different things. So they hide it. From others. From you. But especially from themselves. You ever notice how someone suddenly becomes louder after you walk away? They start posting more, going out more, acting unbothered. But look closely. It's not confidence, it's noise. And noise is what people create when the silence gets too loud. Your silence isn't just quiet, it's penetrating. It sits in their subconscious. It pokes at their guilt. It rattles their self-image. And instead of facing that, they choose denial. Because that's what's safe. That's what keeps them from having to say, "I messed up. I miss her. And I didn't see her value until she disappeared." And here's the part that's hardest to accept. They might never say it. Not out loud. Not to you. Some people are so ruled by ego that they'll go a lifetime pretending they never cared. But you'll know, because deep down, the truth always leaks. In their energy, in their timing, in the way they reach out late at night, in the way they stumble over their words when they see you again. That's not confidence. That's conflict. The ego is trying to keep the face calm while the soul is screaming underneath. So let them pretend. Let them hold on to the role. You don't need an apology to validate your worth. Their performance says more than their silence ever could. Because here's the real power. You're no longer emotionally available to the illusion. You see the split. You see the performance. And you refuse to act in their play. Say it like a quiet truth only the wise can understand. Type it in the comments right now. I see through the performance. If this section just opened your eyes, press that like button. Share it with someone who's tired of being gaslit by silence. And subscribe, because we're not just pulling away, we're rising with clarity. Stay with me. The truth is loud, even when they aren't. Number 7. The slow burn of regret. Delayed realization is the deepest pain. Regret doesn't always strike like lightning. It doesn't always show up in the moment they lose you. In fact, most of the time, it sneaks in, quiet, slow, like smoke under the door, filling the room before they even realize it's suffocating them. You think they don't care because they didn't chase you right away. You think their silence means peace, like they've just moved on effortlessly while you're left holding all the weight. But listen to me carefully, my friend. Regret doesn't move fast. It builds, and when it hits harder than anything else. At first, they feel free, light, unbothered. They confuse your absence for relief. They tell themselves they made the right call, that it was never that deep, that they can find someone just like you. But that illusion, it has an expiration date, because time doesn't lie. Time reveals. And the longer they live without your energy, the more their world starts to feel hollow. Not broken, just off. Like something real left the room, and everything else feels fake in comparison. You were real. Your love was grounded. Your effort wasn't for show. It came from soul. And now they're out there searching for connection in people who only offer distraction. They're out there trying to match the feeling without matching the depth. And guess what? It's not working. Because your energy wasn't something they can scroll past or replace in a weekend. Your energy lived in the details, in the way you listened, the way you held space for their mess, the way you saw through their armor and still chose to stay. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And that pain, it creeps in slowly when the noise dies down, when the party ends, when they look around and realize everyone claps when they're winning, but no one understands them when they're low. That's when your absence starts to echo, and that's when the grief starts to burn. See, it's not always the heartbreak that destroys people. It's the realization they threw away something real, that they rejected something rare because they weren't ready, that they had someone who loved them deeply, patiently, fully, and they chose distance over effort. That's a slow burn, a haunting one, because once they feel it, there's no going back. They'll try to replace you, recreate you, reinterpret the past to ease their guilt. But it won't work, because once someone has tasted loyalty, real presence, real you, everything else tastes bland. And here's what makes the ache permanent. By the time they fully realize what you were, you've already evolved into something they no longer recognize. You're no longer waiting. You're no longer hoping. You're not even hurt. You're healed. And that contrast, it's brutal, because they remember you in a version they can't reach anymore. The you that would have picked up their call at midnight. The you that would have forgiven too quickly. That version? She's gone. And the woman who replaced her? She's not interested in repeating the same chapter. So don't be fooled by the quiet. Don't confuse delayed regret for lack of feeling. Time is doing the work. Life is doing the teaching. And your job is to keep glowing, keep growing. Let the silence stretch. Let the burn set in. Because once it does, it doesn't just sting, it scars. Say it with your chest. Drop it in the comments right now. Time makes them regret me. If this hit deep, press that like button. Share it with someone who needs to stop mistaking silence for peace. And subscribe. We're not just watching the burn, we're rising above it. Stay with me. The deeper it burns, the more clearly they see. Number 8. When they return, don't be where they left you. They always come back, but here's the part they never see coming. You won't be where they left you. You see, folks, giving someone space doesn't mean you're sitting in silence, biting your nails, hoping they return with a changed heart. This isn't about waiting. This is about ascending. You didn't pull back to press pause, you pulled back to level up. When they ghosted, when they cheated, when they overlooked your worth, they expected you to stay frozen. They expected the same version of you to be right there, ready, soft, open, familiar when they returned. That's the lie the ego tells them, that they can disappear and come back like nothing happened, that your love was a permanent fixture waiting for their convenience. But you're not a fixture. You're not a pause button. You're not an old address they can return to when the world gets cold. You are a force, and in that distance you evolved. Quietly, powerfully, without noise, without warning, without asking for permission, you became someone new. Carl Jung said, "What you do not bring to consciousness appears in your life as fate. And when they come back, it'll feel like fate, but not in the way they hoped, because they won't recognize you. Your glow will feel unfamiliar. Your peace will be intimidating. Your boundaries will speak louder than your affection ever did. And that contrast, that's the final blow. That's what breaks them. They will return looking for comfort, but find clarity. They will search for the echo of your old softness, but be met with quiet power. Not bitterness, not revenge, but a steady, graceful no. You're not cold. You're just elevated. You outgrew their games, their silence, their indecision, and now, standing in front of them, is the version of you they never believed you could become. It's funny how distance tricks people. It makes them think time is standing still. But for you, that distance was a launch pad. You weren't waiting. You were becoming. You were investing, healing, learning, rebuilding. And now they don't just miss you, they mourn the version of you they thought would always be there, the one who would have answered on the first ring, the one who would have given them another chance just for showing up. That version, she's a ghost now. And here's what really hurts them: access denied. Not because you hate them, but because you respect yourself now. You don't negotiate your peace. You don't hand your energy to anyone who didn't know what to do with it the first time. You don't go backwards, not even out of curiosity. So when they return, and they will, don't meet them where they left you. Make them feel the journey. Let them see that your absence wasn't empty. It was a transformation. And now, they're not invited into this chapter. Say it out loud and type it in the comments right now. I won't be where they left me. If this part lit a fire in you, press that like button. Share this with someone who's rising quietly behind the scenes. And subscribe, because we're not just healing, we're becoming the version they'll never reach again. Stay with me. Your glow up is the closure.